Canton High Sports. This is our court.
Hello and welcome to Ralph Mascherelli Gymnasium here at Canton High School. I'm Kevin Prake. I'll be your fellow commentator for the night, and we are here to witness Varsity amateur wrestling action featuring the Canton Bulldogs and the King Philip Warriors, as we just witnessed the disc toss. The disc toss is similar to the coin toss in American football. It decides the choice of position at the start of the second period, and the team that wins the disc toss will appear at the scorer's table when the referee calls for each weight class to come up to compete. So that is a very big advantage. In addition, the captain of the winning team gets to pick whether or not the weight class will be proceeded in an odd or even fashion. And this is also extremely important. So that was extremely important what we just witnessed. And this is shaping up to be a great night for amateur wrestling. And here we go, we're about to start. As Canton is in the black with the white and green C on the side, and King Philip is in the green and the gold lettering. And here we go. The wristbands represent which team? Canton has the green and King Philip has the red. And here we go as the two jockey for position with good grappling. The Canton amateur wrestler takes over the legs, and he has got his opponent in close to a pinning predicament as he has gained 2 points. The points are also extremely important in this because if you gain 15, you will win the match by technicality. And here we go as a giant snafu is going on as the two jockey for position. And the green team, which is Canton, gains 3 points. And the King Philip gains 1, making the score 5-1 in this opening matchup. And here we go, getting ready back to start the period again as we begin in the neutral position. But it is not very neutral because Canton starts on top, and they will get primary positioning as they try to flip their opponent for the pin, which takes 5 seconds and automatically ends the match and gains a point for the team with the pinfall. So Canton looking to pin the opponent on his shoulders. Both shoulders have to be touching the mat consistently for 5 seconds. And there is a point for the red team, which is King Philip, making the score 5-2 with 1:06 left to play in this first period. Canton will once again start on top as King Philip goes on the bottom. And King Philip reverses the positioning, but Canton does it just as easily, and we start with Canton on top as King Philip tries to use the Canton wrestler's own momentum and flips him, but Canton does it just the same and has a full body scissors on his opponent, both legs wrapped around him. And he's switched to a modified chokehold and is now twisting his opponent with the body scissors, trying to keep as he is now over him, trying to keep his shoulders to the mat. The King Philip amateur wrestler doing all in possible power to make sure that both shoulders do not end up on the mat for 5 seconds consistently. As Canton is looks to be some kind of hold. Looks to be a camel clutch, I'm not sure. There's 3 near falls for Canton. That gains him 3 points, and we have a bloody nose on the field. So he will be cleaned up by the medical staff as the condition of the athletes is of the utmost importance here in MIA wrestling standards and to the amateur wrestling community as a whole. So as the mat gets cleaned up, the wrestler gets cleaned up, and the Canton wrestler gets advice from his coach that is what will happen as the King Philip wrestler is being tended to, and the Canton wrestler is now getting attention, as the score right now in the first period is Canton 5, King Philip 2. That was a great run of action that we just saw. For those that don't know, a fall, aka a pin, is when a wrestler's shoulders, any part of the shoulders, are constantly in contact with the mat for at least 5 seconds. This ends the match and gets a point for the winning team of that match. So now we are going on as the King Philip wrestler continues to be cleaned up as they're cleaning the blood off his hands, and he looks to be okay as the Canton wrestler is now checking up on him. Good sportsmanship being shown here, as it is in the left bottom corner of your screen is what is being attended to right now. As the mat has already been cleaned, and that's that. Canton leads 2-0, as the score in this particular matchup is the Canton Amateur Wrestler 8 in the King Philip Amateur Wrestler 2. There are 3 ways to gain points and win a match here in amateur wrestling. One, as I described earlier, is the pinfall, which is the best way and the most effective way to win the match, but it is also the hardest way to win the match. The next way is by technical fall. This means that if either wrestler cannot get a pin, then if they get to 15 points, that means they win the match by technical fall. And that's the only reason. And if they gain the near fall, they get to 15 at the time. And I'll get back to that in a second, as we are ready to start back up here as the Canton Amateur Wrestler gains the leg, but is now cradling the other. He has another full body scissors on his opponent, as he looks to have a green card. So now we'll start in a neutral position in this second period. So as the two grapple for position, and the Canton Amateur Wrestler takes the low end, and he has great positioning for a pin. But it is the King Philip Amateur Wrestler that gains the points as the whistle blows. And red gains another 2 points, as the Canton Amateur Wrestler cannot hold the head. He is doing incorrect moves, unfortunately, as it is. And the King Philip Wrestler will get cleaned up once again, as his nose is gushed out once more. And the Canton Amateur Wrestler is getting advice from his coach about what he should be doing and how to do it. It is very important of the safety of these competitors that they are always kept in the highest regard. Their safety is of the utmost importance, and that is the main focus of this, is to make sure that the safety and skin conditions are all taken care of, because it is incredibly easy to spread diseases on the mats in which these wrestlers wrestle. Back to when I was talking about the technical fall. A technical fall is when you score 15 points via near falls, which is getting your opponent to be pinned, having both shoulders on the mat, but not for the full 5 seconds. So if you gain 15 points, you win the match. But if you're in the middle of a near fall, you have the chance to gain the pin if you have 15 points. But if you do not gain the pin, you win via technical fall. The third and last way to win an amateur wrestling match is the major decision, which is simply one wrestler gaining more points than the other one that hasn't gained a technical fall or a pinfall victory. So those are the 3 types of forms of victory to win an amateur wrestling match.
We've got a code red.
We're gonna have to do a scan.
Man down. Operation Eat Breakfast is a go.
Take him to extraction point C.
Clear. Peaches. Oranges. Milk.
Hey, soldier, you gotta eat your breakfast.
Yes, sir.
Eat these healthy foods and be a breakfast
And
soldier.
the King Philip wrestler coming in for another go at this amateur wrestling matchup. The first of the night. And here we go as the two jockey for position once more. As we have seen so many times, the King Philip wrestler grabs the head, but the Canton wrestler once again goes low and it once benefits him. And it does again. As he has control of the right leg, now the main torso area. And he is looking as he has him in a full Nelson. He has him in a full Nelson. He has a full Nelson still, trying to push him over to his shoulders, trying to gain the pin, as there is just over a minute here in the second period. And there is 1, 2, 3. There is a point. 2 points go to the Canton wrestler, making the score in this particular matchup 5-4 King Philip. And there is a point for the red team, which is King Philip. As the Canton wrestler once again goes back to the legs, and his helmet is coming off. But he still continues to get the body wrap on his opponent as he looks to get the half Nelson to be locked in, and he has a pinfall. And he has one shoulders, 3, 4. And that is 4 points. That is a tie score in this particular matchup at 6. As he looks to get the 2 shoulders on the mat. But his opponent is trying to bridge, which he's trying to push his body into an arching position, but he is pinned. And that will be it for this particular matchup. The Canton Bulldogs score a pinfall victory over the King Philip Warriors. So an amazing matchup as we just witnessed, as both teams will shake the hands of their opponents' coaches and return to their sides. As Canton now leads the overall score by 6 points. As we will go into our next matchup of the night. As the King Philip wrestler puts on his wristband as he comes back from the score table. And the two shake hands in sportsmanship and get ready to start this amateur wrestling bout. As they jockey for position, the grappling is strong and fast, and one cannot get full control of the other. And King Philip goes for the legs, much like the Canton wrestler did, but the inside cradle is too much for him as the Canton wrestler gets control for a second, but King Philip gets control and now has the full wrapped body and tries to flip him over and is almost successful in getting him into a pinning predicament. As he is now on top of him, as the Canton player goes back to a vertical base, which is the strongest position. And that will be 2 points for the King Philip Warriors as they're leading this particular matchup by a score of 1-2, and the two opponents will go out of bounds. It will start in the neutral position as King Philip is just trying to get a hold of the headgear of the Canton amateur wrestler. Both teams are trying to flip their opponent, and Canton flips him. Canton just outright flipped their opponent, does the Canton amateur wrestler, lift him up and slam him right back down on the C in the middle of the mat. Now he's trying to flip him over onto his shoulders, getting the pin. That's what he's attempting to do right now as we are witnessing history in the making. The Canton amateur wrestler now at a vertical base, but the whistle blows and there is a timeout on the mat. And there will be a point for the King Philip Warriors, making the score 3-3 in this particular matchup. Canton leads the total series by 6 points. And Canton will start on top, and Phillip will start on the bottom. Both teams are trying to jockey for position here. Canton has the waist, and Phillip once had the headlock, but no longer does. Canton has a half body scissor, but now is trying to lock arms for a half Nelson. He's trying to get the half Nelson locked in. He does. He does not. Now he does. And the buzzer sounds to end the first period with the score of this particular matchup, 3-3. Great showing by both combatants. Red deferred in this matchup, and they will start on top, and Canton will start on the bottom as Red gets control of the waist, but there's a caution on the red team, which is King Phillip. Canton is the green team, as seen in the referee, as they put wristbands on their ankles. King Phillip doing everything they can to get some sort of pin on their opponent and raise the score in this dead heap of a tie. So Canton is back to a vertical base and takes down their opponent with a triangle chokehold and also control the leg, as he only has one shoulder of his opponent down but gets two for a second and has gained 2 points in that endeavor, but the two go out of bounds. But Canton does gain the lead in this particular matchup, 5-3. With 1:28 left to play in this second period of amateur wrestling action. Canton leads by 2 and starts on top in this varsity amateur wrestling matchup, as they try to flip their opponent, and both teams do a bridging at the same time. But now King Phillip has control over their opponent for a second, but now the two are just having it out with each other, going back to back and forth. And right now, King Phillip has control over the Canton amateur wrestler, having only one shoulder on the mat. The Canton wrestler swarming like a fish out of water, trying to make sure his other shoulder does not hit the mat. But it did not for a second, as the crowd is getting very loud here in Varsity Gymnasium, as the King Phillip wrestler has gained 2 points, putting the score back at a tie. As he looks to pin his opponent, the Canton wrestler refuses outright to be pinned by his opponent, as there is 20 seconds left in this second period, but the Canton wrestler gives up 3 points to his opponent and just does not want to put down his other shoulder, as he is now flipped on his stomach and his team is cheering him on, and that will be the end of the second period. So at the end of 2 periods, the score is the King Phillip wrestler 11 points, the Canton Bulldog wrestler 5. But the Canton Bulldogs lead in the overall series by a score of 6-0. In this third and final period, the Bulldog wrestler will start on the bottom, and the King Phillip wrestler will start on the top. And he has to make sure that he has correct control of the stomach torso area in the starting position. King Phillip only needs 4 more points to get a technical fall in this matchup, as King Phillip tries to get control of his opponent, but the amateur wrestler does not, as they go back to a neutral position trying to fight for the power in this matchup, as the two are starting to feel each other out, trying to figure out which way is the best to take each other down as they grapple back and forth. The two are still grappling as they are making tough work of each other, and he goes for the knee, does the Canton wrestler, trying to force his opponent down. And that is a technical violation for the Bulldogs, making the score 12-6 in this particular matchup. As the two started in the neutral position and now grappling once more at the vertical position. The King Philip wrestler going after the headgear of the Canton wrestler, trying to get a headlock of some sort on his opponent, but that is proved to be unsuccessful as we are back in a neutral grappling position as the team continues to try to get position. The King Philip wrestler goes low but is unsuccessful as the Canton wrestler maintains position and is now trying to lift his opponent over his head, but is unsuccessful, but has his opponent down looking. He rolls him over and has thorough position of the pinning predicament. And now Canton is in prime position for a pinning predicament, and he is looking to flip over his opponent to get the pin and subsequently end this matchup, as there is 12 seconds left to play in this matchup, and he is closing in on a pin, but will still have a headlock as he tries to flip over his opponent, and that will be the end of that matchup, and the score will end up being a victory for the King Philip Warriors amateur wrestler. As King Philip wins their first match of the night, and that puts the score at the Canton Bulldogs 6, the King Philip Warriors 3, as we go into our next matchup of the night. Now here we go with our next matchup, as the two jockey for position once more, a position that we are becoming accustomed to seeing in amateur wrestling. This is actually freestyle wrestling, otherwise in the coordinates of that, collegiate wrestling, as opposed to the other type of wrestling, Roman wrestling, which they did back in the ancient times in the first Rome's in the Olympics, as the Canton wrestler does a series of great maneuvers to gain control of his King Philip counterpart. And King Philip will gain a point there in this particular matchup. The score is Canton Bulldog Amateur Wrestler 2, the King Philip Amateur Wrestler 1 in this varsity matchup. As the two jockey for position, the Canton Bulldog Amateur Wrestler goes for the legs but fakes out his opponent. A great strategy, as that is a great takedown by the Canton Amateur Wrestler, who goes out of bounds, but he is performing some fantastic takedowns in this first period. Perhaps some of the best takedowns we have seen tonight so far. That is up for debate, but he's doing a fantastic job for his team. As the King Philip Amateur Wrestler forces his opponent out of bounds, putting them back in the neutral position, as he was in a tough spot in that standing half Nelson. And the Canton Amateur Wrestler goes after the legs once more, which has proved very valuable for the Canton side of things, but it backfires on them as the Canton Amateur Wrestler is pinned, or was very close to being pinned, not for the full 5 count. And he is doing everything he can not to be flipped over on both shoulders, as both teams look very, very closely onward to see the action going on in front of them. At the end of the first period, the Canton wrestler holds on to make sure that he is not pinned and the match does not end. But at the end of one period, the score is the King Philip Amateur Wrestler 6 and the Canton Bulldog Wrestler 2. But Canton leads in the overall series 6-3. And we go to start the second period. Canton started on top as they will wrestle down their opponent. as he has a full body hold on his opponent, looking to put him on his shoulders, with the possible flip impending. As the King Philip wrestler pushes his opponent out of bounds, as it proves to be his strategy thus far when he gets into this tough situations, which necessarily probably is the best solution to stopping this very aggressive and ferocious attack by his very strategic and very good counterpart in his opponent. As the two size each other up and look for a grappling position and an advantage over their opponent. The Canton wrestler has his opponent, and he is in firm control and is pushed out of bounds once more by his counterpart, by his opponent, who has pushed him out of bounds for another time, pushing them back in a neutral position with 1 minute left to play in this second period. As the Canton wrestler looks to pin his opponent and is just going after his opponent. But the King Philip wrestler evades him and gets back to the neutral position, sizing him up. The King Philip wrestler seems to be taking a much more strategic and calculated approach to this wrestling matchup, as his opponent is taking a more ferocious and instinctful approach to the matchup. So a much varying styles going on here in this matchup, making for a great amateur wrestling bout to watch and to commentate. And here we go with both have control of the heads as they were forced out. As they will go in the neutral position with 1:03 left to play in the second period. The score in this particular matchup is 8-4 King Philip, as the two once again size each other up, looking to gain the advantage. And that will be the end of the second period. And green will start on the downside, which is the Canton Bulldogs, who have the green wristband, and the King Philip Warriors, who have the red wristband. And we will start the third period. And that is a very successful start for the King Philip Warriors amateur wrestler, as he immediately takes his opponent down and puts him in a half Nelson, looking to flip him to get him in the pinning predicament. But the Canton wrestler looking for a backslide, but is caught in his own backslide and is now pinned. He has both shoulders on the mat and no longer does. For a second he did. It's his own backfired on him, but that will be the end, as he is pinned to the mat by his opponent from King Philip, and that gains 6 big points for the King Philip Warriors, putting them up in the total score 9-6. Are they junior varsity or varsity? Got it. And here we go, ready to start another matchup of the evening, as the Canton wrestler looks to pick up his opponent and flip him over. He has picked him up entirely. He picked him straight up on his feet and put him on one shoulder. As he is very close to pinning his opponent, having both shoulders tied up on the mat. And the Canton wrestler has both shoulders on the mat, and that will close to be a pin, but he has one shoulder up on the mat, and that resulted in 2 points for the Canton Bulldog amateur wrestler. As Canton again has firm control over his wrestler, his opponent. And that is a pin, and that is a big 6 points for the Canton Bulldogs, as they result a pin for a pin and puts them back in the lead by 4 points, as with a score of 12-9. And here we go to replay. And that is a great replay of a Canton takedown. And another replay of a different match from the Canton Bulldogs. And here we go with another great takedown for the Canton Bulldogs, as there was a quick arm drag to bring down his opponent for a decisive advantage. And here we go with another wrestling matchup, as we are elevating a weight class here. And the Canton Bulldogs wrestler is up on his shoulder. He's up on his head. He's up on his head as he is jockeying for position against his opponent, as they are just trading blow for blow, move for move, trying to gain the upper hand, as the Canton wrestler has 2 points in that near fall situation. And King Philip will start on the bottom, and the Bulldogs in the black and green will be on top. King Philip in the green and gold. Bulldogs taking on the headlock, as he is just putting his opponent in whatever he can. It looks to be a body scissors, and his opponent is grabbing his arms, which he is using to bridge up, and that is a pin for the King Philip Warriors, and we'll see if that is a near fall or if it is indeed a pin. That is just 2 points for the King Philip Warriors, putting them up 4-2 in this particular matchup, as the Bulldog wrestler gains a point with under a minute left to play in this first period, as they are back to a neutral grappling position. And that is another pin for the King Phillips, as he has him in a guillotine-like move. But Canton reverses it, and let's see if he gets the pin. Both shoulders down, both shoulders are not down. One is down, one isn't. Canton looking to force the other shoulder down. The other wrestler doing everything in his power, squirming like a dead fish, trying to get out of the hold, but it doesn't look to be a good hold. Doesn't look like he's going to, as the Canton amateur wrestler has a very good hold on his opponent, trying to force him down with both shoulders. And he has him down for a second, and at the end of one period, the score is the Canton Bulldogs 8, the King Philip Warriors 4 in this particular matchup. Let's see what the referee's call is. Canton will prefer to be down in this situation, as King Philip in that last period he avoided disaster by the skin of his teeth, as if that match went on any longer, he surely would have been pinned. But here we are during the second period, as the King Philip wrestler will take advantage of his opportunity of being on top to start, as he has a variety of moves on his opponent, but the Canton wrestler has the knee of his opponent, so it makes it very hard for both to go and take down their opponent. One has the torso and one has the knee. It is very hard to move when your knees are not in your control. But that doesn't stop the King Philip wrestler from attempting pinning his opponent, but it does not work in his favor, as he is almost pinned by the King Philip wrestler. The Canton Bulldog wrestler has almost pinned him on a number of occasions. As he has him in some sort of arm bar. Looks to be a chicken wing, but I don't think it was. That is 2 points for the Bulldogs, as the King Philip wrestler will start on the bottom and the Bulldog on top in this restart of the second period. Not really a restart. And here we go. And he has a good hold, a good hold on the neck, a good grapple on the Canton wrestler. Does the King Philip Warrior as he looks to force his opponent down to the mat with both shoulders on the mat. But he does not have that as of right now, as they are struggling for position. Both have an equal grasp on each other, and Canton will take the high ground on their opponent. The amateur wrestler from Canton is flipped off the back of his opponent and is almost fully turned over, but is not. But that is gains 2 points for the King Philip Warriors as we are winding down this second period. And Canton looks to get out of this unscathed, as that's what they hope to do. And the Canton wrestler trying to force his way out. But that will end the second period with the score of this particular matchup, 6-2 in favor of the King Philip amateur wrestler, as the King Philip amateur wrestler will be on top to start this third and final period. The Bulldogs lead in the overall score, 12-9, as the King Philip Warrior continues to assert his dominance over his opponent from Canton, as unfortunate as that sounds, as they are maintaining great grappling here at Musharelli Gymnasium in Canton, Massachusetts. The King Philip wrestler is just having his way with the Canton wrestler, as he has a very good armbar in. It is just locked in very tight. And it is very hard for the Canton Bulldog to escape the Warrior from King Philip High School, as the King Philip amateur wrestler is just toying with his opponent, throwing him around like he's a rag doll, as the Canton Bulldog looks to get to a vertical base to try to reverse some of this pressure onto his opponent, as there is under a minute left to play in this period. And the Canton Bulldogs looks to get out of bounds to force a break of this hold that is very strenuous on his body and is hard to get out of. And he's just being taken down by his counterpart. But he is starting to get to a vertical base, and the two are out of bounds, and Green will be on the downside of things in this particular matchup, as they're down 4 points in this particular matchup. 32 seconds left in this matchup of amateur wrestling, the Varsity edition. So Canton looking to get some sort of pin or more points on the board so they can have the lead in the total scoring of this matchup and not have it be a tie. Canton looking to make sure that they do not be pinned, but that is a illegal maneuver by the King Philip amateur wrestler, and that results in a point for the Bulldog amateur wrestler, making the score 6-3 in this particular matchup, as the Bulldog with the green wristband will start on the bottom, and the King Philip amateur wrestler with the red wristband start on top. As the two grapple for position, we do not see the King Philip wrestler take immediate control over the situation like we have so much in this varsity wrestling matchup. The Canton Bulldog is putting up a fight here at the end of the matchup, with the score 6-4 in this particular matchup. Now will be the end as the two shake hands. Canton will get the victory, and that gives them an extra 4 points as they get a technical victory. So at the end of the many matchups as we have seen tonight, the score is Canton Bulldogs 16, the King Philip Warriors 9. Here we go as we move up a weight class. The King Philip Warriors will wear the red wristband. The King Bulldogs of Canton will wear the green as we start this next matchup, as the two jockey for position. The two break it down to the ground and they both go down on their knees as the King Philip Warrior looking to flip his opponent up in the air and into a pinning predicament as he has control of the left knee of his opponent. But the Canton Bulldog looks to almost have get out of it. He has some sort of hold on his opponent. It looks to be a grapple that he has lost and is now has a grapple by his opponent on his torso and is trying not to be pinned and suffer a great loss in this matchup. A pin for the King Philip Warriors would put them within a point of the lead of the total, as the total is 16-9 in favor of Canton. And in this particular matchup, it is the King Philip Warriors who lead by a score of 2-1 with under a minute left to play in this first period. The Bulldogs get possession of their opponent until he's lifted up and slammed back down to the mat. And he is now lifted up for another suplex, but it is not going to happen as he had a hold on his opponent, but that results in 2 points for the Canton Bulldogs as the score is 4-3 in favor of the Warriors. The Bulldogs looking to flip their opponent. Does the amateur wrestler to gain a pin with 13 seconds left to play in this first period. It only takes 5 to get a pin and end the match entirely. The backslide is ineffective by both wrestlers. And the Canton Bulldogs wrestler had a headlock, but that will be the end of the first period of play. And it is 4-3 in favor of King Philip, amateur wrestler, in this particular matchup. To start the second period, it will be King Philip on the top and that Canton Bulldogs on the bottom, as Canton looks to come back in this matchup. Canton is already in a very tough position as he was almost pinned to the mat. He had both elbows, but it doesn't matter. You need both shoulders, any part, to be on the mat continuously for 5 seconds. The Bulldog wrestler tries to evade that. Is just tackle, but he evades it for a little bit, but is unfortunately back on it. And here we go. And that is another. He has the leg and he's setting up for what looks to be not a figure four, kind of a leg lock on his opponent, but he once again has the torso and the upper left leg. But the Canton Bulldog is slowly escaping, trying to grab the ankle, which the wristband is attached to, of his opponent, which is red on his right leg of the King Philip Warriors amateur wrestler. And there is an illegal maneuver by the King Philip Warrior. They just went out of bounds. So after this is the King Philip Warriors 4, the Canton Bulldogs 3 in this particular matchup. Canton will start on bottom and Philip will start on top. As Canton squirms and squirms trying to get out of this hold that is just deadly to the match as they look not to be pinned in this varsity amateur wrestling matchup. And they gain 2 points in that endeavor, taking the lead in this particular matchup 5-4 as they look to pin their opponent onto the mat for 5 seconds and win the match entirely and go up by another 6 points as they lead at this current position in a total of 16-9. And King Philip just took the lead in this particular matchup 6-5 as King Philip now has a suplex-like position that he could have used to flip his opponent onto his shoulders, but it proves unsuccessful as his opponent is making sure that that is not feasible, as his opponent is now at a vertical base. And at the end of the second period, the Canton Bulldogs amateur wrestler was just suplexed over his head. And if that period didn't end, that would have been a very bad situation for the Bulldogs. That would have been a pinning predicament and that probably hurt a lot. And here we go, starting the third and final period of amateur wrestling action for this particular matchup, as the score is 6-5 in favor of the King Philip Warriors. And Canton had a headlock for a second, now has an armbar. The armbar leads into another headlock as he has what looks to be a half Nelson on his opponent. He has another headlock and almost a full Nelson. Now he has another armbar as he just moving for a variety of grapples as the two are forced out of bounds and forced to break up the holds. And here we go, the King Philip Warrior goes low, but it proves to be successful in the long run as it gains some 2 points, making the score 8-5 in this particular matchup. And there is a technical violation by the King Philip Warriors, putting the score at 8-6 in favor of King Philip. Canton will be on the bottom to start with 1:15 left to play in this matchup. Canton is almost pinned as the King Philip Warriors amateur wrestler has firm control over his opponent as he has a body hold on the torso. He could suplex his opponent at any moment, anytime he wishes, and it almost happened right there on your screens. But he now has a half Nelson on his opponent as he is bringing him up, trying to flip him over to get the pin. He has a full body scissors on his opponent. So the half Nelson turns into a body scissors as he has his legs wrapped around the torso and his arms firm around the neck of his opponent as he is in firm positioning to gain points in this matchup as he tries to make sure that his opponent cannot flip him over and get the pin, as there is 10 seconds left to play in this varsity matchup, and King Philip is leading by 2 with a score of 8-6 as he has a guillotine-like position, but that will end the matchup, and King Philip will have the lead with a score of 11-6, and that is how they will win by technical fall, as they will gain 3 points in their matchup, putting it at a total score of 6-12 in favor of the Canton Bulldogs. As the wrestlers come out after checking at the scoreboard, checking in for this varsity amateur wrestling battle for the ages, as the two shake hands in a fight of sportsmanship and grapple for control and see who will come out on top in this amazing duel of wit, strength, strategy, and pure muscle. As the Canton Bulldog wrestler has a firm control over his opponent, but is just switched, and they are tied at 2 in this particular matchup as they are going fight for fight, stride for stride, grapple to grapple in this amazing show of sportsmanship and the great armbar by the King Philip amateur wrestler as he tries to get the pin on his opponent, but needs to flip him over. It doesn't work if he's on his back because the Bulldog can easily stand up as he's doing now to put his opponent on his back and reverse the pressure to get the pin on his opponent. Just as he did right there, and that is a 6 point for the Bulldogs in this particular matchup as they lead 6-2, as he has a good armbar locked in, now has a half Nelson. The other opponent, the King Philip Warrior, has a half Nelson locked in on his opponent, which is turned into a full Nelson and is now in a suplex-like position, ready to get his opponent into a near fall. but both grapple at the same time, both have control of the torso and fighting for position and power. And the Bulldog amateur wrestler scores a point, putting them up 7-4 in this second period of this particular matchup. As the Bulldog goes low, but it does not help him as his shoulders are very close to the mat. And the King Philip Warrior looking to pin his opponent and end the matchup right here. But that will not happen because that is the end of the second period with the Bulldogs up in this particular matchup 7-4. As the King Philip Warrior amateur wrestler goes over to the medical station to get aid for an injury he suffered during the bout with his combatant of the Canton Bulldogs, as we witnessed a great show of sportsmanship and technical ability in that matchup, as we are only 2/3 of the way done, as there is still one period left to play in this matchup for the ages. As Canton leads in this particular matchup 7-4, 16-12 they lead in the total series that have accumulated over every match of the night. The King Philip Warrior is all fixed up and he is ready to do the final period of the match. As he takes control of the left leg of the Canton Bulldog and he brings him down. That was very creative. And he now has the leg of his opponent. He has both legs controlled. Now he has him in a suplex position. He could suplex him at any time, putting his shoulders onto the mat and looking for a pin in a pinfall victory for the King Philip Warriors. As the King Philip Warrior had one shoulder of his opponent on the mat for a split second, but the Bulldog is making sure that he does everything in his power to make sure that that does not happen. As we have 1:10 left to play in this varsity matchup, and the score in this particular matchup is 7-6 in favor of the Bulldog amateur wrestler, as he has one shoulder on the ground and has a full Nelson locked in by his opponent, and now has a triangle choke locked in as he is flipping over his opponent. That looks to be almost a figure four headlock, and he is very close to a near fall. He may have a pin. He doesn't look to be. His right shoulder is still up, meaning there is no pin. He just has to hold out for another 30 seconds to ensure a Canton victory, and another 3 points for the Bulldogs. As his shoulder is up on, his left shoulder is still up, as his opponent is trying to bring it down with some sort of armbar, and there's two, but he escapes. The Bulldog amateur wrestler doing a fantastic job of keeping his shoulders off the mat, but that resulted in 3 points for the amateur wrestler of King Philip, and they will have the lead in the final seconds of the match, putting it 9-7 in favor of the King Philip Warriors. And we're looking to see who won and who lost in that matchup. We'll get the referee's official decision, and he has to check with the score team. He's coming out right now, and we'll see who won in that battle of the ages. And there will be another period in this matchup. And Canton takes control of his opponent, has a good armbar locked in, now has a half suplex, as he now turns his half suplex into a wrist lock, and that'll be 2 points for the King Philip wrestler, as he is 4 points away from a technical fall, which means he gets the 4 points for his team. as the King Philip Warrior is trying to push over the Canton Bulldog onto his shoulders as he has just done to get the pin. And we're looking to see, does the referee, is he counting? That is all the excitement of amateur wrestling. You never know what you're gonna see. And we're looking to see, and that is a pin. After that outstanding bout, the King Philip Warrior reigns supreme as he gains the pinfall victory over the Canton Bulldog amateur wrestler, who is very upset at his loss, as the show sportsmanship is very good. A hard-fought victory for the King Philip Warrior. It did not come easy. And the Canton Bulldog amateur wrestler shakes the hand of the opposing team's coach. He has nothing to be ashamed of. He had a great performance there. Although, unfortunately, the King Philip Warriors take and here we go with some replays, and this is of a Canton Bulldog wrestler flipping his opponent, lifting him up on one shoulder and flipping him back down to the mat. What an impressive feat of strength. And here we go with another replay from the same matchup, and he is got down with the good chokehold down to the mat with fantastic and here we go. Then and the Canton, the King Philip Warrior wrestler gains quick points to that, gains another pin, and it is 24-16 in the overall total. For the King Philip Warriors. And here we go. There we go. The Canton Bulldogs amateur wrestler brings down his opponent only to be taken down in a headlock for his opponent. And he is brought down, but he escapes. He escapes the hold, and now he's in prime position to get the grappling position. And the 2 points are scored for the opposing team, the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs are in a near fall position as they have one shoulder on the mat and has an armbar on another, looking to make sure that he doesn't let his other shoulder reach the mat. As he is sliding, he is full position on his opponent. That is just really tough. Should be going on as the Canton Bulldog wrestler has his arm in a very tight armbar. In this matchup. He also has his torso wrapped up by his opposing opponent as he is doing everything in his power to make sure that he is not pinned in this predicament. It will be the third predicament in such for the Bulldogs, as he was pinned for a quick second in this particular matchup. It is 2-0 for the King Philip Warriors. The Canton Bulldog amateur wrestler trying to make sure that he does everything in his power to make sure he isn't pinned, and he reverses the hold, and he gets on top of his warrior with a fantastic technical wrestler. Technical wrestling is key in amateur wrestling, and that is a fantastic showing of technical wrestling textbook reversal for the Canton amateur wrestler, as he gets 2 points on that maneuver. In this particular matchup, the score is 5-2 in the King Philip Warriors' favor. And here we are getting to start the second period of this matchup, as the two look to jockey for position, trying to figure out who will gain position as the two grapple, but soon throw each other off. as they go and takes down the legs and he flips him over. That was a fantastic maneuver as he pulls the dragon corkscrew onto his opponent. As he gains position, he looks to suplex him and he gets control of his opponent. And he's now on top of his opponent, getting close to his suplex position, but lets his opponent get up and they will go back to the neutral position. King Philip leads this particular matchup 6-4 as the Canton Bulldog amateur wrestler has pulled out some fantastic amateur wrestling skills in this matchup. Between the reversals in the dragon corkscrew leg whips that are actually a thing, as the two try to feel each other out, trying to jockey for position and maintain control in this varsity amateur wrestling matchup. The two continue to feel, and the Bulldogs go low, and he flips his opponent. That was like almost just bringing him up and slamming him back down to the mat. There was a great maneuver by the Canton Bulldog amateur wrestler, once again proving his technical superiority over his opponent, as we have seen so far in this matchup, as he has the leg twisted back from the opponent and the unnatural position, as he is still just getting control over his opponent, has the suplex locked in, has a half Nelson. He is just all over his opponent with every move you can possibly imagine in amateur wrestling, as he is very close to the pin, and that will end the second period with a great showing of technical superiority by the Canton Bulldog amateur wrestler. And it is 6-6 in this particular matchup, as the two square off once again, as they stare each other down in this intense bout of strength, technical ability, and muscle. Who will win, who will lose in this matchup of varsity amateur wrestling? As the two grapple for position, the Canton Bulldog amateur wrestler takes the neck and shoves off his opponent. And the two look for position, waiting to strike to get advantage over their opponent. Leading the Predator, waiting to strike, getting to his prey, as he looks to get into that pinning position to get the pin for his team, and a huge 6 points. That would be absolutely extraordinary, getting Canton back into the match in the total score positioning as they're down by 8. The armbar by the Canton wrestler, as he features it and looks to have a full Nelson on his opponent, and he is just taking him to school, not to mention wiener school, but he is just showing his technical prowess in this match. And it is just overall, he was just forced, he was just flipped into a pinning predicament of his opponent. That was fantastic by the King Philip Warrior amateur wrestler, showing that he also has technical prowess as he performs the big flip and gets the pin on his opponent. That was a fantastic match, definitely the most exciting one we have seen in the entire night. And that puts the King Philip Warriors up in the total score of 30-16. The technical prowess of that match was absolutely superior. I can imagine what they are. And here we are with a replay after that extraordinary bout. And it is the reversal of the Canton Bulldog defender. It was absolutely extraordinary and gets him out of a tough positioning. He took a knee, as this replay is fantastic, as he just jackknifes him down to the mat, and it was absolutely extraordinary. And here we are getting to start another matchup in the night full of excitement and flipping and turning and muscling, as we have been just thrilled by the technical prowess that we have seen thus far. And that was, whoa, that was a big flip. That was a very huge, wow. There are no words to describe what just happened. as he took the leg and almost flipped his opponent by his leg and almost flipped him. And there he goes again. What incredible strength featured by the King Philip amateur wrestler, as he is just taking immense control over his opponent as we have moved up a weight class in this varsity amateur wrestling matchup of the night. And we are having a full Nelson, does the King Philip Warrior, on his opponent, as his opponent escapes, only to get back into a half Nelson and is hopefully not getting suplexed again as he forces his opponent out, much like we saw earlier in some of the earlier stages of these matchups, where one of the King Philip amateur wrestlers, whenever he got into a tight position, made sure he got out of bounds, which was a very smart maneuver. So now there is a half Nelson, or going for a full Nelson is the King Philip amateur wrestler. He now has him in a suplex-like position, trying to flip him over his head, or just like that with the roll-up, trying to get a pin for 5 seconds. Oh my goodness! These are incredible feats of strength. That is a big man. He is flipping all over the place, is the King Philip Warrior. It is unfortunate to see the Canton Bulldogs getting absolutely, manhandled in these situations. It is terrible to see, but it is an incredible feat of strength featured by the King Philip Warrior amateur wrestler. And he will get the pin in that matchup, as he just featured incredible strength, flipping his opponent multiple times from the knee, as he will get the victory in that matchup. And the score will be 36-22 in the total score in favor of King Philip. Unfortunately, Canton could not pull that one off. And it is 36-22 is the total score, as you see in the top bar of your screen. And it is in favor of the Warriors from the King Philip High School. And here we go, ready to start another exciting varsity matchup. They're getting more exciting the longer these matches go on. The two wrestlers aggressively start out as the two both go out of bounds, as they both aggressively try to gain position through the grapple, but proved unsuccessful. So we back in the neutral position, and they go up a weight class as the two continue to grapple position, as the King Philip Warrior grabs the leg of his opponent, but is forced to drag him out of bounds, and the score will remain scoreless in this particular matchup, as the two again aggressively grappling each other, trying to gain position and gain some points and put them on the board. The two seem evenly matched so far. The Canton wrestler goes low, but doesn't prove to be effective to him, as he is now in the half Nelson and is now in a full Nelson, but is forced out of bounds by the King Philip Warrior amateur wrestler. So we'll be back in the neutral position with 1:15 left to play in this first period of varsity amateur wrestling action. As the two shove each other off one by one, trying to see who will gain the advantage in this battle of defensive amateur wrestling. The King Philip Warrior forces his opponent close to the out of bounds. They're on the line, the outer circle, and it looks to be that they were just out of bounds. And 2 points will be gained for the King Philip amateur wrestler, as King Philip will be on top of the Canton Bulldogs defender to start this next set, as we are still in the first period of play. The headlock is clear on. It was on. The Canton Bulldog defender turned into a half Nelson, is now back into a headlock, and is now into a half Nelson. The variety moves that is now into close to it. It is now in a half Nelson. He is trying to get control of the other arm of the Canton defender, who escapes back to a vertical base. These two are very evenly matched, perhaps the most evenly matched teams, the most evenly matched wrestlers we have seen all night in this amazing display of action. As the Canton Bulldog wrestler is taken out of bounds as he is thrown by his leg, but is proved unsuccessful, unlike their last matchup that we did see. At the end of the first period, the score of this particular matchup is the King Philip Warrior Amateur Wrestler 2, the Canton Bulldog Amateur Wrestler 1. So to start the second period, green will be on the bottom, and the King Philip Warrior will start on the top, as we here start the second period of action. The King Philip Warrior grabs the left leg of his opponent, but that is a 2 points for the wrestler from Canton, as the leg grab proves to be successful for his second. Is the first successful time that the King Philip Warrior gets points off of the leg lift, and the score will be tied at 3 in this particular matchup. As the King Philip Warrior goes to the sideline to get fixed up by the medical team. So here we are with the Canton Bulldogs amateur wrestler getting advice from his coach, as he has performed very well, making sure that he is not pinned in this very evenly matched amateur wrestling bout. Perhaps the most evenly matched of the night. And here comes the King Philip wrestler back for some more action in this second period of play. Here we go, both players start in the neutral position with the vertical base. And the King Philip Warrior spikes his opponent out of the ring, out of the ring, and gains 2 points in the process, putting him up 5-3 in this particular matchup. 119, let's go in this period. King Philip will start on top, trying to get a pin onto his opponent. The Canton Bulldog looking to get out of the predicament that he is currently in, which is the suplex position. He has the half Nelson locked onto him, but he is now shoved off of his opponent. And that is a point for the Bulldog, as it is 5-4. And both are shoved out of the circle, and they are forced to be back in the neutral position. Five to 4 the score in this particular matchup. King Philip's amateur wrestler is in the lead as we are closing in on the end of this period. The spike down onto the ground uses the King Philip Warrior as he gains 2 points off of that amazing maneuver and into the chin lock. Which is, yes, it is still a chin lock, and it is trying to form into a half Nelson, which is one arm pinned behind the back of the opponent, and that is 2 points for the Bulldogs as he is very, very close to a pinning predicament. He almost had a near fall there. now be the end of the period, with the score 7-6 in favor of the King Philip Warrior. The Bulldogs almost had a pin at the end of that period. And here we go. And Canton will start on top to start this third period of play as they are trailing by 1 point in this particular matchup. They're trailing by 12 in the total series, as the Bulldog has the very good clutch under the neck, but is brought down by the King Philip Warrior, who has him in the half Nelson. Actually, he has him in the full Nelson, where he has both arms between the shoulder blade and the arm. He has him through the armpits of his opponent. The Bulldog with the reversal gets 2 points, putting it at 10-8, the total score in this particular matchup. And that is a near fall, and we'll see if that is a pin. Both shoulders are on the mat, and that is a pin. And the Bulldog bench goes crazy for their first pin in a quite long time. And the Bulldogs cut the lead in half of the King Philip Warriors. What great show of sportsmanship, technicality, wrestling, and perseverance by the Bulldogs as they get the pin. And it is their first pin in quite a very long time, cutting the King Philip lead in half, making the And here we are with a replay, and it is of the matchup we just saw, and it is the ping predicament of what won the match. So here we go as we move up a weight class. And these are two very, very big men for both teams. Canton trails by 9 in the total score, which is 37-28. As the two are just grappling in between each other like two grizzly bears fighting it out for a piece of salmon. Who will come out on top as they are forced to break the hold. The King Philip Warrior has control over his opponent as the two lock arms trying to force each other down to the mat. The King Philip Warrior with the red wristband on his ankle, the Canton Bulldog with the green wristband on his left ankle. These two are definitely fighting it out. They are two grizzly bears going at it. And the Canton Bulldog amateur wrestler has the chokehold going down. That chokehold is cutting off the lack of oxygen to his brain. It is getting very hard to breathe as he escapes the hold, and the reversal to the exact same hold is reversed, and the Bulldogs now have the same hold on his opponent. He has the chokehold on him, just like was on him a second ago. He has a great hold on his opponent, trying to force him down to the mat for the leverage pin. The pinning predicament would be great for the Bulldogs as he is very close to one. That is a pin. That is a pin that could be reversed, and we'll see who gets that. And the Bulldogs have flipped his opponent over. The Bulldog amateur wrestler flipped over his opponent and looks to get the near fall pin as he is winning by 2 points in this particular matchup. And as the end of the first period, where the Canton Bulldog amateur wrestler pulling out all the stops to get those 2 points in the momentum in this varsity amateur wrestling matchup, as the two heavyweights of both teams go at it. And the hog up to start the second period as they pretty much lock arms, trying to forcefully force one person down to the mat and get a pin, much like we saw at the end of the first period of this exactly same matchup. As there looks to be a bear hug going on, the King Philip Warrior was bear hugging the other Canton amateur wrestler, was pretty much squeezing the life out of him. And the King Philip Warrior goes for a hold, but is absolutely reversed by the technical prowess of the Canton Bulldogs amateur wrestler, who almost brings him down for the near fall, but we are back into the vertical grappling positions. What exciting action we have here to show you on Canton Community Television. The two Grizzly Bears keep locking up arms in the vertical position, trying to force one down and get the pin, as we are under a minute here in the second period of this varsity amateur wrestling matchup. The two sizing each other up now, trying to see how they can take each other down. As they both have firm control over one another, and the Canton Bulldog amateur reverses the hip toss and forces his opponent down, and the Canton side goes crazy, does the team, as he is very close to a pinning predicament. Does the Canton wrestler, as he is forced down, and he has the armbar. No, he does have an armbar on his opponent. In this particular matchup, it is 4-1 in favor of Canton as we approach the end of the second period in this fight of the Grizzly Heavyweights. So at the second period's end, it is the particular score of this particular matchup, 4-1 in favor of Canton. But King Philip leads in the overall matchup, 37-28. Canton looking for a pin to score 6 big points to get even closer in the total score. The two Grizzly Bears looking at lack of energy, as they have just had an intense battle throughout this entire match, as they are forced out of bounds. As the two lock shoulders again. One looking to flip the other. If somebody flips somebody, that would be the most incredible feat of strength I might have ever seen. As the two gasping for air, trying everything in their power to get the pin, as the King Philip Warrior keeps trying to pin the Canton Bulldog amateur wrestler, but the Canton Bulldog keeps reversing everything that is thrown at him. As the two are now just trying to do everything in their power to end this match with the pinfall. As we are under a minute left to go in this very physical matchup. And there's almost a DDT-like position for the King Philip Warrior, who gets him, and he is in a submission, who has the arm bar. But they are forced out of bounds. And we get the official call from the referee, who says, let's restart this match in a neutral position. The score remains the same, 4-1 in this particular match. And the King Philip Warrior is going down. The Canton Bulldog has gained 2 points and is getting close, very close, to a potential pinning predicament. And he is very close, he might have it right here. And he is very close, he just has to get the other shoulder down. The left shoulder is still up. He has one shoulder down. There's 23 seconds left in this particular matchup. And it is a point gained for the King Philip Warriors as he trails in this particular matchup by 4 points. And the Canton Bulldog just has to hold out for another 10 seconds to win the last matchup, as he's looking for a pin in this very, very hard-fought matchup between the two heavyweights of both teams. And both teams show their respects by the massive round of applause. And the Canton Bulldog reigns supreme in the battle of the Grizzly Bear heavyweights. as the score now in total is the King Philip Warriors 37, the Canton Bulldogs 31 in the total overall score. So now we are waiting on the opponent for the super heavyweight of the Canton Bulldogs amateur wrestling team. He is one big fella. And as the referee was trying to figure out the score, the official score, and it is 36-31 in favor of the King Philip Warriors. And by forfeit, it is the Canton Bulldogs amateur wrestler with the victory. And that will put the Bulldogs up in the total score of 37-36. And that will be the end of the game, the end of the matchup. And at the end of the meet, it is the Canton Bulldogs that come out on top by a score of 37-36. I'm Kevin Prake, along with the fantastic camera crew. And thank you for watching Canton Community Television, the student station. Your final score again, the Canton Bulldogs, in a 1-point victory at the score 37-36. Thank you for watching.